All right. So, how are you doing? How's your week going?
So far, it's good. We are basically working on our plans A, B, C, D, E, F, G for if COVID keeps happening and we're in certain shutdowns, what do our events look like? So it's never a dull moment, but it's also helping us think outside the box a lot.
Yes, definitely. It's really brought out the creative sides of a lot of people, especially myself, I found. Pretty surprised, but it's been nice.
Yes. Gotta have to be creative in this time because it's like we're all at home and it's like it's been a year since we've almost a year. March will be a year since we've done sporting events, and we just have to think, okay, if we can't see each other in person, how else can we still interact with everybody and make it fun at the same time?
Exactly. Trying to figure out that platform, but then also be engaging and and be entertaining. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Definitely a challenge.
It's always a
Yeah,
challenge, but if that's the one thing about sports, it's never a dull moment. So it's like you're always something new pops up. It doesn't matter if it was COVID or not COVID. We're always having these great opportunities to test our abilities and to also expand and try something new. Why not?
exactly. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that. Yeah. Um, so we have a few questions lined up for you, but feel free to ask us any questions in between. So for our
Or
first question, as a graduate from the sport management program, what is a lesson or experience to share with current SPEMA students that helped you to get where you are in your career today?
Oh, the biggest lesson, and I know it's going to sound cliche, volunteer. I did not have the highest grades. I did not make Dean's List. I was not honor roll. But when I walked away from Brock University, I did walk away with over 20 different references from different departments, different schools, different organizations, things that were tangible for me going into a job, having these references behind my back. Being involved because Brock at the time hosted a lot of OUA and CIS, which is now U Sports, like always hosted events, especially when it came to wrestling. So by my fourth year in Brock, I don't know how, but I became like the coordinator of the wrestling championships. So that was like my final year, and every year prior to that, I was working. And then my last year, I was actually running the show. And that really helped because every single school that attended, each of those coaches wrote me a reference letter because I was in communication with them for the whole year. And even the different departments, right? We have athletics. Well, back then it was athletics and recreation. And having somebody from the intramurals or having the director of recreation write a reference letter and the athletic director and people I worked with in athletics. So it was just being able to get my name out there. Granted, I probably could have done better in school, but I also knew if I don't have the grades, I will need to have something else behind to support my career. And it was the volunteering got my name out there really, really well, and especially in the sports industry. It's a very small world, and you'll always run into the same people, or you'll run into somebody that knows somebody. And that's kind of how I've been very blessed and fortunate to have these opportunities and continue to meet people along the way.
Yeah, it's also a very competitive field. Every time,
Yes.
every time in my classes, there is at least one time that they would say, the people that are around you, get to know them, they are your competition. Like, okay, yes, but
Yeah.
it's so true. It's
It
so
is.
true. And I I know that you say volunteering is like a cliche, but honestly, it's not. It's true. It's the complete truth. And um, I can definitely attest to that too. Just being in my first year, I didn't know anyone at the school. I left all
Mhm.
my friends and went to a different university. Um, I didn't know anyone, even outside of students. I didn't know the faculty, I didn't know anyone. So I needed to get to know people. I needed to get my name out there, especially if I wanted to make a place for myself. So everything that you said is 100% true, and I think is great advice that sometimes people don't realize can truly benefit them in the future. Because like you
Yeah.
said, you could meet someone, but hey, maybe if they don't have anything to offer you at this moment, they might know someone else, and so forth, right? So it's so true.
Like,
Volunteering is key.
one of the best examples I can give is like the Pan Am Games. Like everybody, I wanted to work with the Pan Am Games. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity. I applied and applied and applied, and I got turned down for job after job after job. However, I was a senior volunteer. So I did have another job, which was paying my bills, but then I used the Pan Ams as a volunteer opportunity. So from 2013 to 2015, I volunteered for the Pan Ams. I was still applying to work with the Pan Ams, never got a job, but I ended up being the venue manager for softball. And that was a senior volunteer position. And the amount of people that I met just from having that opportunity of volunteering. So it's like, I know people might get discouraged. It's like, oh, I applied for a job, I didn't get it. But you still have to, okay, I didn't get the job, but how do I still keep my name like in the mix, or how do I still stay involved in these activities? And you just have to be able to volunteer, and when it's your time, it will be your time to come out, and people will respect that. They will see, man, this person has volunteered a lot and they've put in a lot of dedication, so they really want to work in this industry, they really want to be a part of it, and that might just get your foot in the door for an interview.
Absolutely. I like that you bring up both of those volunteer examples specifically, because not only those references that you can get, but also the experience that you gain. Like you were saying, in your 4th year, you were pretty much running the show for that wrestling championship. And when applying to jobs and saying, I did this, I ran this, I was the main coordinator for that. Like, that's just an incredible experience. It shows so many skills that you've developed and learned and just put to use. So even just that, and showing that you can do that position, it's really incredible. So thank you for mentioning that, because although it is cliche, everyone says volunteer, they really don't understand sometimes the skills you can get out of that. So thank you for that.
Well, the other thing for me in volunteering, being at Brock, because again, I'm a Scarborough girl, born and raised in Scarborough, grew up with basketball, tracks, football, like, the main sports. Going to Brock put me 100% out of my comfort zone, because I was working sports I didn't even know existed. So it's like, that was the one thing Lauren Adams, who was the athletic director at the time, that was his advice to me, was you need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to work other sports and show people that you're versatile. And I was just like, I don't want to work others, like, because like you want to stick to the sports that But then I was like, okay, I hear what you're saying. And I got to work wrestling and saw, like, what, I didn't understand it at first, but by my 4th year, like some of my closer classmates were the wrestlers, because I would see them on a day-to-day basis. I was like, their coaches were phenomenal people, and they helped me grow. Seeing lacrosse for the first time, same with rugby and all these other sports. And the one thing I've learned was things that you do at one sport can be very transferable to other sports. And it's just like, you're seeing, okay, this is how I did it for this sport. How can I do it to fit this sport? And that's just how everything works from that end. And it was working the other sports that really prepared me for all those great adventures I've had in my career. Because again, it was stepping out of my comfort zone and not just limiting myself to, I just want to work basketball, I just want to work volleyball, and being able to say, what, I will take any opportunity that is presented to me, and I'm going to make the best out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for that perspective. I completely agree. I think that's so important. So moving on to our next question here. So kind of speaking to your current career status, so there's significant growth and movement within your positions at Field Hockey Ontario. So could you tell us a little bit about those roles and some of the specific skills that you use every day in your current role?
So right now in my role as the executive director, it is a day-to-day juggle. Like, no day is the same. Every day is different. And sometimes it also depends on what is being relayed to us from the news, what's being relayed to us from the ministry, because that's what we're really waiting on. Is how does things work? Like, so for example, right now, where I live, I'm in the red zone, but where a lot of my athletes live and where a lot of my clubs are, they're still in the gray zone. And then I have some athletes in some clubs that are in the green zone. So it's like, how do we cater to all the different clubs and the different zones, and making sure that they're abiding by the COVID rules and making sure that they have the proper stuff. So that's what we spend a lot of our time doing, and answering those questions right now, is because everyone is so anxious to get back on the field. And one things I do on a daily basis is multitask. because in my role, and we're a small PSO, so I have another full-time staff with me and I have a part-time staff, and we take care of everything. So it's parting, making sure that like other PSOs might have 10 people, we really have 2.5. So it's like being able to do the balancing act with, I do a lot of grant writing as well. So the grant writing and sponsorship, and anyone that has done grant writing and sponsorship knows that that takes up a good chunk of your time. So it's, when do I have time to really sit down and write a grant and sit down to do sponsorship, versus I have all these meetings that we have with the ministries or the different regions to find out, can we get back on the turf? What is it going to look like? What are our numbers? What's our limits? Because we have to also abide by the regional rules, plus making sure that they have our return to play guidelines as well. And then we're getting our community relations grassroots programs off the ground. So it's carving out time to make sure that we have everything that we need to get our grassroots programs and operating and our partnerships going. So multitasking is definitely something that is my number one priority. Communication is another skill, especially now, because I haven't really seen my staff in person for a year. I haven't had that opportunity. Everything that we do has been online. So communication has been, like, it has to be key during these times. So we actually try to meet like every morning as much as possible, just to do a check-in, like, how's your day? What do you have on your dock? Do we have any questions? And then we have a bigger meeting because we do have interns. We have interns with us Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We have another meeting with the interns, and then we have a bigger meeting with interns and staff. It's just all about communication at this moment in time and making sure we're able to do our jobs while we're all far apart from each other in different cities, and being able to manage our day-to-day responsibilities.
Wow, definitely a lot. I can definitely see why multitasking and, you know, being organized in that area is definitely really important. I completely agree, especially now communication is so key. Even with our small organization, SHEMA, you know, that constant communication, making sure everyone's on the same page. You know, we're all in different parts of the province right now, you know, just those check-ins to make sure everyone's on the same page. So yeah, definitely thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's also Wi-Fi. Everybody knows Wi-Fi is not the most reliable source that happens. And it's funny when we're in meetings and somebody is frozen or somebody gets booted out. And it's like, you know, everyone has those frustrating moments when it depends, again, what region you're in. Some regions get hit harder than other regions do, or sometimes it's down in different areas. And then it's like, okay, what do we do? Or we just need to make sure it's like everyone realizes that's going to happen. We know it's going to happen, and it's okay that it happens. We're just going to pick up where we left off and continue rolling with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's important to notice too that you have acquired skills from your position, but you are still acquiring skills and you're developing the ones you already have, especially when you're adapting to things that are happening in the world, such as this pandemic. Communication is always important, no matter which position that you're in. But now with the pandemic, it's almost like, okay, so how can I improve this area?
Exactly.
So it's I love to see that. I love to hear that and know that, yeah, okay, we are developing skills, but there's so much to learn still, which is really good to know.
Yeah, never stop learning. Like I say that every day. I learn something new every day. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm far from it, and I don't have all the answers, but I do enjoy learning something new every day. And every day I've had a meeting, literally something new has come up and I'm like, I had no idea. Or, you know what, that's a great idea. Never thought of it that way. And we just kind of roll with it from that end. I like to beg, borrow, steal. Something I've been doing for many years, because I'm like, why are we going to reinvent the wheel when if somebody else is doing it? But I always make sure I give credit to where I'm beg, borrowing, stealing from, to make sure that people realize that these were the original ones that started it. We just borrowed it and changed it to fit our, like, to adapt it to our organization.
Yeah, 100%. There's always something new to learn. Even myself, I don't like sitting still. I'm like, okay, like what else can I know? What else can I improve on? Something that'll help me in the future. And just like how we were talking before, yeah, okay, my passion is basketball, but there's so many other sports out in the world that could help you acquire these different skills that could put you a step further than other candidates, perhaps in your position, because of your vast experience. So 100% true. I appreciate you explaining that.
No.
This next question I'm really excited to ask because it came to my attention just the other day. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience as a mentor with the Black Female Coach Mentorship Program, and also just explain kind of the importance of this as well?
So far with my experience with it, it's been, for me, to be honest, it's something I really want to be a part of, and I wish it was around a lot longer, because it is true. If I can't see somebody that looks like me, that kind of has a similar background as me, I don't know if somebody like me would ever make it to higher positions. Growing up, I've always had a lot of males. So I've had a lot of male role models, like male, and I would have some like black males. I had like a lot of white males, but it was always males. I never really saw females. And for a very long time, I had no idea if I would even have a career in sports. To be dead honest, I didn't know if I would even move up the ladder. I didn't know if it was possible for me to move up the ladder, because I never saw that with other females. And if I did see females, it was always white females I would see in those positions. So I was like, okay, like I'm not, the only time I would see a black female in my position was when I was in the States. So when I went and did my master's in the States, I saw a lot of people that looked like me, a lot of people that had similar backgrounds like me. And I was like, okay, so do I need to move countries to get involved and to move up the ladder? Is that what it's going to take for me to be involved in sport? And when this opportunity came with BCCA, I jumped at it because I know what it feels like to grow up and be in this industry and not have someone that looks like you to look up to, or someone that looks like you that's in a position that you want to aim for. And I wanted to kind of be there to let people know it is possible. And Sandra Levy, when I saw that the COC named her as the Chief People Officer, I got ecstatic, because here it is, it's a female that looks like me, similar backgrounds, like, you know, her parents immigrated from the Caribbean and she came from the Caribbean and she made a life here and she played sports, did this, and this, and now she's in this senior position. I'm like, okay, so it is possible. It is possible for me to continue to move up the ladder and to going from there. And when I came in this role, a lot of the other mentees were just like, they never even knew that it was possible for a black female to be an executive director at a PSO. And to be honest, prior to me, neither did I, because I never saw it. And it's like, at first, it took a while for me to embrace that position, to embrace me kind of going out, and because I'm a private person, to kind of share my experience with people. But I'm realizing, if I can share my experience and if I could help the next generation, then I would like to do my part, because I've had a lot of other people give me the guidance, give me that opportunity in my career to get to where I am. So it's being a part of BCCA and watching it grow, and having a mentee that is coming up kind of behind me, and it's like passing the torch off to her, and then it's hopefully she will do the same, and like, you know, being that mentee for the generation behind her. That's how we continue to grow. That's how we're going to evolve. That's how we're going to succeed. It's being there to help each other out, and it's also realizing, like, we're not going to do it alone. It's okay to have allies out there. I have plenty of allies who have been instrumental in my career and helping me get to where I am, but it's also like believing in yourself and knowing that one day you will get there. It might take a little bit longer than some people, but it is possible for it to happen.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people notice all of the experiences that people may get throughout their life, but then they don't realize that if you cannot resonate with them, then it really takes a toll on you. And sometimes without noticing, and sometimes it's very obvious. Just like you said, you never thought you'd see yourself in executive director position. Why? Like what? Like why is that? And so it's true. Like if you're not resonating with someone that you're looking up to, you will feel like, oh, I can't get there because we don't look the same. We don't have the same background. So how am I supposed to make it, if you know what I mean? So I think that's truly important. And I think that's really come to my attention too after being in this program, because my whole life, like you said, all my role models or all my coaches or all my friends in sport were males. And to me, I was like, oh, whatever. I'm a girl. I love sports. I'm great, blah, blah, blah. And I would just bypass that. But it's the issue right there that no, that should not be normalized. And so as I came into this program, I was basically the same mindset, but then I was really starting to notice this problem. SHEMA came along and it really just resonated with me again. And so it made me feel like, yes, this can happen. And I don't have to feel like I have to pass these barriers. No, I'm welcome in the sport industry. I deserve to
Yeah.
be here, kind of thing. And looking at Shelby Weaver, she's come a long way as a woman in sport. Amber Nichols in the G League, like that. I was so excited hearing that news as her being the GM in the G League. That's a huge factor.
Yeah.
So it's true. Just looking at that just made me myself even more excited to be in the sport industry. So everything you said, 100% true.
It's the tagline that we've been using for this past year, and it stays with me because it's true. It's like, see it, be it, achieve it. And for a lot of females, if they can't see another female in that position, it's hard for them to believe that they can be in that position and then to achieve it. But with more and more women coming up in sport, not just like in the administrator roles, but with coaching, with officiating, strength and conditioning, all the different areas you're now seeing women playing a role in. And I can respect the coaches where they're like, we don't see gender, we just see people who are the best fit for that job. And that's kind of what we look for. It's not like we're setting out to break these records or be the first or different things. It's like we would hope that we're just being hired based on our qualifications and what we're able to bring to the table and do with our respective jobs.
Absolutely. Completely agree with what both you ladies just said. That aspect of representation is so, so important because, as you mentioned, we have these passions for sport and want to be in this industry, but all we see are males or white males or, some females, which is great, or even white females. And, it's hard to see someone that looks like me or, just in those positions, and you don't know. That's scary how you mentioned you didn't know if you'd be having a career or not in this field. So that representation is so key. And to be in this mentor position that you're in, to show that next upcoming generation that, this is possible. Look, I'm this executive director. I think that's so impressive and so important. And it really is making a difference in helping this upcoming generation to see someone such as yourself in this high position. So that's really incredible. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is just for me, it's like people need to I wasn't a varsity athlete. I didn't play in university. I didn't play for Team Canada. But I was always finding ways to work with the varsity athletes. I was always trying to find ways to, how can I still be involved in sport, but from a different perspective? And being a part of so many events, you're still able to represent your country, because I did not know that you could still represent your country as a referee, as a scorekeeper, as an administrator, in all of these different roles. And I didn't know that until later on in my games and still represent my country. I can go to the Canada Games and represent my province. I can do all of these events and still represent my country, but I'm representing my country from a different side of things. And there's nothing wrong with doing that at all. And there's nothing wrong with taking anything away from athletes. Like, they've worked hard on their end. I'm just working harder from a different perspective and from a different side and a different angle to do the same thing and represent my country at an event.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important to see all the different, all the different angles. Because honestly, before heading into this program, I didn't even know all the opportunities and all the different sides of sport that were out there. I love to play sport, I love to watch sport, but did I really know all the different kind of things that went into making this event happen? Like, it's truly incredible to see all the different ways you can get involved, and depending on your different passions or experiences. So it's super important. Yeah. So that kind of leads into our next question. So we talked a little bit about how diversity and inclusion and representation are so important and can truly enhance an organization. So recently we've been seeing a lot of new positions arising, specifically, including diversity and inclusion, such as women referees and that kind of thing. So why do you personally believe that diversity and inclusion is so important? And also, in your opinion, how should organizations include this in more ways than just creating these diverse positions in the workplace?
Well, the first part, diversity and inclusion is important because that's just how our world is. Our world is very, when you look around, like looking around the GTA or even just Ontario or Canada, you're going to see almost every single nationality represented. And for me, if the person is qualified and the person is able to do the same job as our white counterparts, I think they should have an opportunity to get that same fair chance. But sometimes, and we all know, and it's not just in sports, but it's in work in general, a lot of the times it's not what you know, it's who you know. And sometimes getting into those positions could be a lot harder. So the fact that these opportunities are arising for minorities and for diverse individuals to have these opportunities to apply for positions, I would be one of the first to put my names out there, because if that's going to at least get me an interview, once I'm in an interview, it's up to me to be that person to sell why I'm the best person for that job. But sometimes we all need that help getting our foot in the door. We all need that little edge over the other. So whenever people ask me, they're like, well, do you check off that box saying that you're a visible minority? Absolutely. Absolutely, I check it off, because again, if that's going to get my foot in the door, I'm going to somehow get my foot in the door. If I don't know any contacts that are able to speak on my behalf to at least tell the person, hey, this is who she is from that angle. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in that. It's like everybody needs a helping hand. And I appreciate those helping. Like, same when they check off, are you a female? Yes, I'm a female. Yes, I'm a minority or visible minority. Like, I will check all those boxes off, because you never know that you might be missing out on a diamond in a rough because you don't know them. Or when you have thousands of people applying for a job and a computer is kind of spitting through the qualifications, how do you stand out in that end? So if me standing out is checking off those boxes, then I'm going to do it to help check it. Everywhere you turn now, you see everybody coming out with BIPOC positions. And again, it's not like they feel like, oh, they're segregating us or they're selecting us, or we're only getting that job because I'm a minority, or because I'm a female, or because I identify as this person. No, it's like, again, the competition is so fierce nowadays. We posted a job and like we had over 500 people apply. So sometimes it's just getting your name out. Like, can I check 500 people on LinkedIn or social media? Absolutely not. But it's like everybody knows we do those skimming through, and whatever we can do to help, and whatever's going to help us to get that foot, as I said, like, you need to get that foot in the door. You need to do what you need to do. And I think it's brilliant that more and more companies are coming forward and they realize that they do have an issue, and they realize that they are trying to change. I know Brock has been one of those guys that signed a pledge that are going to be looking to hire more BIPOC people in positions, which is great to hear, because when I was at Brock, it was not diverse at all. So it's like to see that they're willing to change and they're willing to open the door up. That's great to hear. But it's also at the same time, we're not just hiring somebody because they're BIPOC. We're hiring somebody because we know that they're the best person for that job. And for me, I've had people ask me to like send different job postings and say, hey, you should apply for this job. And it's flattering to get those opportunities. But then I also know myself, and I also know my limits. And I know that if there's a job that is just way above, I'm not there yet. Give me a couple more years and I'll be there. But right now, it's not a good time for me to apply for it. And I also, from my opinion, I don't want to be hired to be that token minority as either. Like, I don't want to be that token person that, are you sending me this position because you really think I'm qualified, or are you sending me this position because you need to fill the role of a minority? And I know when some people look at me, they're like, oh, you're killing two birds with one stone. And for the longest time, I didn't realize what that meant. But later on in my late 20s, when they mean that, they're like, I'm a female and I'm a visible minority. So they're just like, you have two birds with one stone. And I was like, now I gotcha. So it's like, I don't want to be that person either. But sometimes when I take roles, like when I'm working with field hockey, I like working for a small PSO, because it's helping me to identify me as a person, to know what my limits are, where my goals are, and what I can do, what I can't do. Whereas if I took a bigger PSO that had a lot of staff and a lot of members, I don't know if I would be shining as much as I am right now. So it's being able to take those identifications, being able to know what your limits are, and not just taking a job because they are looking for a BIPOC person or looking for someone to fill that role that fits that category. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, what I just said, and going from there or sharing that experience.
No, that makes perfect sense. Thank you for sharing those opinions. I think it's super important that you mention you have to know where you want to be as an individual, and what is right for you at this moment. Like you're saying, in this smaller organization you are able to develop these skills and shine and grow individually as a person. And I think that's really important because opportunities may come up left and right, and you can't say yes to everything, and you need to know what is the best for you, and that may change over the years and as things happen. But I think it's really important to take that step back and reflect upon yourself, what's best for me right now.
Yes.
So thank you for mentioning that.
Well, and it's like everywhere you go now, everyone's looking for a BIPOC. Everywhere you go, you're going to see positions and you're going to see people, I think, asking you to identify as BIPOC. And again, like people might see, oh, I'm BIPOC. Oh, I get to make this much money. I get to do this. That might be some people's cup of tea. But I know for me, that's not my cup of tea. Because some jobs, like the bigger the job, the more the stress that comes with it, the more pressures that come with it. And I actually enjoy having a life outside of work, like having that free time, being able to spend time with my daughter, which is beforehand, sometimes it was really hard for me to spend time with her because I was always working. And right now I can say being with field hockey, I'm having fun. I'm learning. I'm realizing why I fell in love with sport again. And being a minority female was just an added bonus where these guys welcomed me into their sport. Because I've never played field hockey. I've never been a part of it. And I thought this would have gone 100% south because I don't know their sport. I don't know anything, but what I brought to the table, they needed help with. And for the past 2 years, they've just been teaching me about their sport. They've been helping me grow and learn more. And it's made me realize why I fell in love with being in sport management, why I got into this career, and why I do what I do. And being able to say that at my age and this stage of my career, a lot of people can't say that or haven't said it in a while, or some people have gotten out of sport. So I feel like I've just been blessed to have these opportunities, and I've had them at the smaller level instead of the large scale. But you never know what the future holds. But I just know right now, for today, like this is like the best fit for me. What was your second question to that one? Sorry.
Oh yeah, of course. So sorry, just pulling that up here. How should organizations include this in more ways than just creating these positions and ticking those boxes?
So the other thing that some organizations have started to do, and I really appreciate it, is they have been taking diversity and inclusion courses that have been offered through Sport Canada or Sport for Life, or different organizations. They've been having, like, I've had other people reach out to me individually and say, hey, I may not be coming across the right way. And I'm the type of person where I know what you're trying to say, so just go ahead and say it. It's not going to offend me whatsoever. It's like, how can I help? And they've reached out for help from that angle. But definitely taking the courses, realizing it's like if we wanted to recruit we want to recruit new coaches or new volunteers within the BIPOC community, what advice do you have? Like, so the fact that they're asking for help, the fact that they're educating themselves without waiting for us to tell them to, that's been a huge step. And it's like I've seen more and more NSOs and PSOs and sports organizations go ahead and do that. And it's actually amazing to see. It's amazing to see more people. Like I've had friends or past colleagues like just reach out and say, hey, have I ever said anything to offend you? Like, you've never offended me, but it's like maybe you might want to change the way you say things or how you approach things. And I respect that when people take the time out to ask you those questions or ask you how to do certain things, or they're going to take that extra step to take a course or educate their community by putting up different resources or different flyers, or have somebody come in as a guest speaker to ask questions. So there's so many different ways I've seen people transition it, and not just waiting for somebody to tell them to do something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that flows really nicely into our next question, but I have so many thoughts going through my head at this moment, so I'm just going to say a couple. But speaking of just enhancing the organization in general with diversity and inclusion, Madeline and I are part of an initiative right now that's for BIPOC individuals, and we were talking about diversity and inclusion and how it enhances the organization, because we want different perspectives. We don't want just one person saying one thing and everyone agrees with it, which leads into groupthink. And then we don't have more opinions. We don't have debates that gets us to think outside of the box. So it's definitely true, like how much diversity and inclusion can enhance the organization overall. And you talking about ticking the boxes, sometimes just listening to that made it seem like other people are making it more of a negative connotation. If I identify as that, why is that a problem? That shouldn't be a problem. You identify as what you identify as. Why is there a different situation? If that puts me ahead of foot of someone else, your skill could do just the same thing. So why is it an issue in that way? So that makes me question a lot, but it's true. Am I being involved because, sure, maybe I'm a visible minority, but why? Are my skills also enhancing your organization? Will it help the whole idea? Not just, yeah, okay, we have someone of BIPOC individuals in our organization. Okay, but that can't just be it. I'm not just going to join some organization just from one thing that I identify as. So true. And I love that organizations are including these educational platforms to educate themselves, because as we go into our next question, talks about genuine allyship, and it's showing their initiative to want to learn, and to, even if maybe they, like someone said, have I ever offended you? They're checking themselves to make sure, like, okay, do I need to fix something? Do I need to fix the way I communicate certain statements? So that's really important. So that kind of leads into genuine allyship, which is the next question. So SHEMA really stresses on the importance of that. And we believe that we first need to learn and educate before making changes and truly unite. So as students, diversity and inclusion is becoming a very prominent topic. So what advice do you have for upcoming sport managers, and how to continue genuine allyship and be a part of this necessary change?
I would definitely, people have to have an open mind. That is something where, because when people, for example, for me, when I'm growing up, people would always ask, where are you from? And I would just say Scarborough. And they would be, where in Scarborough? And I'll say, like, Malvern. Where in Malvern? And anyone that knows Malvern, I'll just be like, oh, it's like, why are they asking me this question? And then I would say Empringham, and they're like, oh, because they know that was like low income, a lot of gangs, a lot of things that happened in that area. And sometimes people would just judge people based on where they're from, their background. Sometimes they get judged based on their names. You can't help what your parents have named you. And for some people that have certain names, it might be something with their cultural. And so I've always told people to have an open mind. Like, don't kind of go in with, I always try to not listen to side chatter as much as possible. Like, don't judge a book by its cover, because I don't like when people judge me based on what they've heard. Try to go in with an open mind and an open perspective and going in that direction. Being an ally, it's like, always check yourself too. It's like, I do it all the time, because just because I'm a minority female, I want to make sure that I'm still a good ally for my friends or for people in my inner circle. And it's not just a one-way street. It has to be a give. How can we help each other? And like, I remember when I was at Brock and I was a student, I was always in sweats, because again, I'm in sport management. I think I get to wear tracksuits all the time, like working and being in part of sports. And I would never forget when the athletic director, Lauren Adams, was there, like, you know what, if you want people to take you serious, you can't always be in sweats. And it's like, he took that time. He didn't talk to me. He didn't talk at me. He was talking to me. He was talking with me. And that is also something else that some people have to realize. It's how you talk to somebody and how it comes across. You don't want to be telling them something, but it's more like, let's have this conversation and work together. And he didn't make me feel like I was an embarrassment. He didn't make me feel that I was doing something wrong. It was just like, hey, you know what? Let me just show you how you can do things differently and still be comfortable and let people take you serious. And that's how I was actually really introduced to not wearing tracksuits to all my sporting events, how to wear golf shirts, how to wear like quarter zips, and you still can wear sporty pants to make you movable when you're working events and different things from that end. So it's part of that allyship. It's not just with the education, but it's also, again, I check myself sometimes. I know my allies check themselves, and they'll ask, whenever somebody starts off a question with, I don't want to offend you. And I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure you are. So like, let's not start off a conversation with, I don't want to offend you. So I'm like, what's up? Like, let's just talk. Like, we've known each other for years. And if they need help with rewording or talking about things, then that's what I'm here to help them. And it's also the same way. Like, I want people to think I'm approachable. Like, what can I be doing differently so they don't think I'm shut off to the world or I'm angry because of these situations that really isn't any of our faults. It's just how the society is and how we can help each other. And it's also be genuine. Like, I'm one of those people where I don't want someone to be saying one thing in front of you and then you're saying something completely different behind that person. Like, if we're going to be doing something, like, let's set each other up for success. Let's make sure that we're supporting each other, especially females in this industry. It's one of those things that's like the only way that we're going to keep succeeding is if we're there to help each other out from that angle. And like, anything that we can do to speak positive vibes is what I like to call it, to each other, with each other, to help each other out. That's how we're going to become better allies to each other moving forward in the future of sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely when someone says no offense before the statement, I'm pretty sure it's going to be offensive. So I'm glad you just said, how about we just have a conversation? Like, don't say that. But it's true. It's all about how you communicate with someone. If someone's trying to give you constructive feedback, there's a difference between being demeaning and being like, hey, this is my perspective. Let's look at it and kind of talk about it. Not, this is what you're doing. This is why you're an embarrassment. No, that's not why. He was literally giving you constructive feedback, but also explaining his reasoning in a non-demeaning way. And just like how we were saying we'd like to resonate with others, perhaps changing your outfit in a certain way for a specific event might help you resonate with those that are around. That might help you to keep moving up in your position in your current role in sport, right? So that's basically what it all is. And it's true, genuine allyship. Are we being genuine or performative? Are we ticking that box just so we can say we did, or are we going to do it so that we can learn and build and grow together? So definitely agree with everything that you just mentioned. So thank you for explaining your opinions on that.
Yeah, it's, again, for me, I would like, my foundation started at Brock, and I was very, very blessed and fortunate to have a foundation of Lauren, Sean, Richard, Mary Lou, Sandy. I will never forget them. They always helped me to start off where I am, from the way I dressed to like the way I talked, the way I carried myself, the way I presented. They spent 4 years, and they didn't have to, right? But here it is. They spent 4 years taking this girl from Scarborough who clearly just had a one-track mind of just working basketball, and they were able to introduce me to different parts of sports I did not know exist. They took the time to sit down and help me and develop me as to where I can see myself going as a potential. Even when I messed up, they didn't throw it in my face that I messed up. They were there to help me be like, okay, so we messed up here. How do we correct it to make sure it doesn't happen again? What are the lessons we're going to learn to move forward? And they were a massive support system. And again, they were all white. And here it is. They took in this black girl from Scarborough, and they really helped me. And they were my massive allies to realize you're not in this alone, and that we are here to help you. And for 4 years, like, I even moved into an office. Don't know how that happened, but my 3rd and 4th year, I had an office in the athletic department. I had a key to the athletic department. That's how much trust they put into me as a student while I was at Brock. And I remember all of those lessons that they installed in me out of, like, you know, I was 18 years old at Brock University, and it's something 20 years later I'm still remembering, and I'm trying to install with my staff and trying to help people grow their foundation.
Absolutely. It's so key to have that support group of allies that you know, they may not have understood your experiences and your past, but they know that they just want to help, you know, make you, you know, help you succeed in what you want to do, and do that in a genuine way and supportive way, you know, not demeaning, not talking you down, but just helpful, constructive feedback, that kind of thing. So super important to have that. So we're kind of leading into our last question here. We like to ask this question to everyone, but we would love to know, what is your favorite part of your job?
Oh, I have to say, meeting people. I love meeting people. And it's, well, there's two parts. So I do like meeting people, especially from different parts of not just the province or country, but around the world. Like, again, little kid from Scarborough, from Malvern, did I ever think I would work all these amazing events and have the opportunity to travel the world for sports? Absolutely not. But now that I'm in it, it's something I couldn't see myself doing anything else. And the other best part of my job is when you have somebody say thank you. Having that person say, I know people always say to me, like, really? I'm like, really? They're like, what keeps you going? And I'm like, it's when someone says thank you, because they realize the amount of work, the time, the effort that goes into what we have done. And they are appreciating everything that we have done for them, especially when you see those little kids out there playing the sport for the first time, or they're out there with their parents and they're smiling and running around and they're just having a blast, and they say thank you. All that hard work, all that stress, all those long nights make it worth it. And that's what has kept me going for so many years. It's just the people that are appreciative. I've had athletes or staff or volunteers, people I've worked with in the past. I actually have a box, and my box, it's all these thank you cards that I've gotten over the years. It's like thank you cards. It's like a lot of them, especially from my students, because they're like, I'm broken, I don't have money, so they like would handwrite notes and things like that. I keep them, and I have them all in a box. And a lot of them go back to, I think the one I saw, I actually pulled it out this past weekend. I was just going through my box, and I have a letter from 2000. I have, like, you know, cards from 2000, because that's what means more to me. It's like, I am not a materialistic person. Everything I own is things that I have done events for, and I wear that out all the time. But what means the most to me are those thank you cards, those thank you notes, and being able to pull up those pictures. And if somebody wrote a note on the back, or, like, you know, letting me know how much of an impact I have been or what I've meant to them, that's what really keeps me going. And that's something I've always appreciated. I need a new box too. So I just it's like the box is kind of like breaking at the seams. So I think I need to. It's a very old. It's one of those boxes I've had for 15 years, and it's all like stickers all around it. So I think I'm like in my grown-up stage where I should probably buy one of those nice little fancier boxes to put stuff in. So, you know, baby steps, we're getting there, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice. I love handwritten letters. I do that all the time. I don't know, I just feel like it's so much more personable, and I don't know, I
Yeah.
love doing that. But it's true, like, all the hard work you're doing, it's paying off, but it's also helping other people, and when they express their gratitude, it just, you know, kinda, it's like a rewarding feeling that you know that you are helping other people.
Exactly.
So that's so nice. I love that you keep all of them in the box.
The one thing is just, as the letters get older, because you know how paper over time starts to,
Yeah.
so the more I keep opening it up, the more I know I'm ripping it a little bit. So it's, because, you know, everyone back then doesn't just fold it a normal way. Like, let's fold it
Yeah.
in 25 different ways to break it down to these designs. So
Yes.
making sure that that doesn't get ruined, and like I could still read it. And like some of the older letters, the ink starting to fade on it. So thank God with technology, like, you know, taking pictures of some of the stuff. So I still have a little scrapbook, but it's like my little keepsakes. And I still, again, like when people send me those letters or people send me those thank you cards, I have them in my box, and something I always keep and I enjoy. And again, my first letter has been 21 years ago. So it's something that that means more to me than winning awards. Like, I'm not one to put things out there. I just love it to see when I watch people grow in their careers, or I watch them grow as an athlete, as a parent, as a person, like, somebody going through school. And again, I always tell people I was not the smartest person. Like, people always knew if it was less than 10%, and I probably really shouldn't say this, I never did it. Like, I was one where if you wanted to find me, I was in the athletics department. And if I was skipping class, I was in the athletic department. I just did the bare minimum to graduate. And because I was just so much in love in working in the athletic department. And when I graduated, it was like bittersweet, because that was my home for 4 years. That was my family for 4 years. They took me under their wing and helped me grow as in a career and as an individual. And that is something, again, I would never forget. And having, when I graduated, they gave me a plaque. And that is one thing I do have posted, and I still have, is the plaque they gave me from all my wrestling championships I've done. And then I do not like wearing class rings, and I don't like wearing a lot of jewelry. But the one jewelry I do wear, and I still wear, they gave me a pendant with like the Badger logo on it. So I still wear that. And then on the back of it, it has SHEMA 2005, because that was something they gave me that I will never forget and I will cherish for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Wow, it's so nice to hear. I'm so glad you had such a nice time in the athletic department through your 4 years of Brock.
About my grades, definitely won't talk about my grades and me attending classes. The athletic department
graduated.
Just where home was, right?
You graduated and you're good.
Definitely don't need to look at the transcript. But I did, as I went on to my master's and I did a post-grad, my grades got a little bit better as I got a little bit older. So I did not take that experience for granted at Brock, but it was definitely my foundation that got me started.
Yes, 100%. Well, we really appreciate you coming on and explaining all of your experiences and insights for us students. We truly appreciate it. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
Before we end, do you have any questions for us, or are we okay?
So what's the next steps for SHEMA? What's the next, other than the those round tables you guys do? What's next? What do you guys see? Like, where's the vision of SHEMA going? And it's a loaded question, eh?
We have
great question.
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. Yeah, we do have a lot on the horizon. This was our inaugural year and definitely had to bring out the creative side, especially through this pandemic. So we're really, really hoping out things are opening up so we'd have more interactions with the students. But yes, we are planning. We have partnerships in the work to create more events, and specifically with policies of LGBTQ plus rights. Nice. So we have a lot of inclusivity ideas coming along. And so, yeah, so this year is kind of coming to an end. So we have more ideas on how to expand SHEMA as a whole coming up soon as we start to hire some new executive members and so forth. But yeah, so we have a lot coming up. I could not really explain it in a short amount of time, but that's what we're working on, is more partnerships and really expanding SHEMA as a whole outside of Brock now, since we have used it as our foundation with the students and faculty. So we're hoping to start expanding outside of Brock University and really starting to make an impact in the world and in the sport industry overall. So that's where we're headed. It's really big. I know my answer was also really broad, but
no, but you're in the right direction. So y'all are doing really well for yourselves. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
That's always nice to hear.
Yes. Really appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to helping and being an ally with you guys. And please feel free to shoot me an email and let me know if you ever need help again. But I do look forward to doing a round table with your students and answering questions. So definitely shoot me the details, and I look forward to seeing you guys next month.
Absolutely.
Yes. Us too. Thank you so much.
And we're excited that you're able to participate.
Yes, any time, and weekends are, especially with nothing going on, so my weekends are wide open. So we're good.
Perfect. Yes.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.